loud. That's good. Share screen.
Look at that guy.
I know. What a stud. All right. So we are recording now. So, I got to come over here. All right. Take one. Welcome to the Courageous Recovery broadcast. I'm your host, Randy Mortensen. This is a weekly 20 to 25 minute program where we provide answers for your I don't know how. Whether you're dealing with recovery issues, emotions from a loss, or maybe life has just thrown you one more curveball than you were expecting, I'm so glad to have you here for this episode. You're going to be blown away with just the wisdom and the experiences that my guest Lance Dieken has, and I'm just really blessed to know that Lance is going to share from his heart, and for all of you who are listening literally from coast to coast here in North America, and I think at last count we have listeners in 24 or 25 countries from around the world. Thank you for taking time from your busy schedules to listen. You should see a chat box or a place for comments. If you're watching this on Facebook, there's comments there. If there's a subscribe button on the platform that you're listening to this on, please leave a comment and hit subscribe. We hugely value your feedback. For more information on what God has me doing these days, you can go to my website, which is randymortensen.com. That's Randy Mortensen, MORTENSEN.com. Later in the show, I will talk about the 21-point assessment that you'll see on that front page. That's a tool to determine whether you or a loved one qualifies for one of my programs called the Lifestyle Champion Cohort. So without further words from Mr. Randy, Lance, it's great to have you on the show today. And you're coming all the way from Kearney, Nebraska. So welcome.
Thank you very much, Randy. Very blessed to be here and share the glory of God in
Awesome.
life. It's wonderful.
Awesome. So anybody that has listened more than once knows that my usual first question for my guest is, Lance, what is it that you know today that you wish your 22-year-old self would have known?
Appreciate the patience. Just wait until you're in your late 40s. We go to, you think you got it. I thought that I had it, and it just comes a point in time where I did anyway, just quit fighting myself, and started to learn to appreciate walking with God, and it's being blessed by you and good friend of ours, Ron Noden. Along the way, you guys have been with me this whole time. I don't know how you guys maintained that, but I'm one lucky guy.
Well, it's great to. It's always great to see the smile on my guest's face and realize the tough times and the challenging times that we've all been through. Any of my listeners know that God set me free from alcohol, got sober in Las Vegas. Who goes to Vegas to get sober, right? But, I've been blessed to put together just over 3 decades. So let's talk about Lance as a teenager, or when did some of this fun time partying life start for Lance?
It was fun. Well, it was interesting. I was in high school, not too much. I mean, I was small town growing up, and, that's what kids did in the countries, road tripping, find a dirt road to park on and get a little bonfire and a couple beers together and whatnot. I took it upon myself to be a little entrepreneurial in spirit and was selling beer to seniors for a nice profit. But college, it got a little rambunctious. There's a lot built out of the house and independence and self-will, run riot, that wonderful saying. But yeah, fun. I mean, I ran into some hardships and stuff. Just being curious, rambunctious and whatnot. So that was the high school. High school, I was still discovering myself a lot. as we all were. So
Right. Right. So then it escalated a bit during your college time. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
not really. I mean, it was probably at the same main tail. My dark period, if you want me to go into that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So after college, getting out, met my first wife, and she was near Chicago, and so I grew up rapidly. I was about 23 when I left Nebraska and went to Chicago, and worked like crazy. Uh, Put career first, so I was still not quite set right. My compass was still off. The dark period of my time, though, was a lot of work, a lot of hours. Got into consulting, risk management, audits, cybersecurity, all that fun stuff. But then Salt Lake City was my dark time, and that was not fun. It was a job that I thought that I waited 13 years for that phone call, and I dropped everything and I went out, and I through the contracts and stuff, still trying to find myself. I was lost and struggling, fighting for all that material stuff, and it wasn't so much the title, the money; it was the bigger projects that I wanted, and all that extra stuff came with it. But I still wasn't within myself. I could put on a suit and tie and show up for work and just do the work, and but that place out there, I was surrounded by a lot of very intelligent folks and a lot of fascinating stuff. Um, but being on the road in the hotels and stuff, I drank by myself. I was alone. I was on call. It was just crazy hours. It was midnight flights. It was after 6 months, that high and that newness really wore off. And then I knew who was in control, and didn't like it. And it just completely destroyed myself, my family, and everything. I mean, it really created a toxic environment around the house. Horrible moment in time. I got picked up for a DUI. I didn't get picked up. I was parked, crazy enough. But at my son's football practice, public grounds, that day specifically, my wife knew, everybody knew that I was struggling. She said, just take the boys to practice. She was in management at a hospital, and yeah, it didn't turn out that way. And, as we know, when we go out, we're aggressive, and when we do stuff, it's big. And when we blow stuff up, it's big.
Right.
Yeah. I had my picture on the news. Northwest Indiana man arrested at Pop Warner practice. And so I sat, and it's kind of when I first felt God touch me, when I was sitting in jail. Sat there for 40 days, crazy enough. But reading Romans, and this has always stuck with me, Romans 5:1-5. And I still maintain that in my notes to this day. I just felt comforted then. But getting out and then going through sobriety and meeting some of my sponsors and doing sponsor work and stuff, I didn't fully commit to myself. And so I felt God's presence, but I didn't have it here with me. So it was put on a pretty face and do the best that I could. I wasn't committed all the way. And so
And then
spirituality, I grew up with it.
were you in Utah at this during this stage, or were you back in Indiana or Illinois?
I was in Northwest Indiana at that time, so just outside of Chicago.
Got it.
But yeah, I could still grab a contract, go to Chicago, and do the work and start the family, and all the other stuff that I could lean on for support. But it was tough. It was embarrassing, obviously, and I hate disappointment. My parents or anybody say disappointment. That was one of those spine. Just I can't stand it.
Sure.
And I know I disappointed myself.
Well, and what I often say is who's our toughest critic? Who's our worst critic? It's ourselves, right?
And to go off that, and then to share the message and stuff too, it's the essence of hope. And with a lot of the group and counseling members and church groups and stuff that I'm affiliated with now, I'm like, you guys just got to give yourself a chance, give
Right.
yourself a break. And it's for me to come and to honestly say that, I can only practice what I preach, and I have to walk and live it too.
Right.
But that was tough for me to overcome though too.
So then if we connect the dots here, so then you went through a divorce, right? Is that accurate? And And so then you went back out for a while, I believe. And so what would you say to that guy who's listening now that maybe has a few months of clean time, or maybe a few weeks of sober time? What would you say to encourage that guy that's just really battling right now?
Find the support. Find your influences. The influences that influence you. Be aware of that. That's one of the things that being out here now, I was isolated by myself for myself, and I finally lived and breathed that motto. But I wasn't alone. I was with God, and I really got down on my hands, and I heeded the advice from my old sponsors. Got down and I prayed, man. I cried. I called Ron many times crying,
Yeah.
but it's just stick with it. You got to be patient with it, and it's give yourself a chance. And then once you can learn to accept that God loves you, that was hard for me to do. I broke down in tears at a restaurant listening to that, and that night turned out to be a magic moment in my note taking and stuff. But it's you just got to give yourself time. It's after 10 days, great. You haven't drank for 10 days. What about the 30 years prior to that? Not
Right.
everybody's going to come and give you hugs. So you got to be patient with other people. You got to be patient with yourself. You got to
Well,
love yourself.
yeah, and I guess what I'm hearing you say is to that guy that's listening to this right now, that's in desperation mode. Find somebody that you care and that you can trust. Find somebody that will invite you to be part of a community, right? Because as I always say, there's unity in community.
Yeah, preach that at churches too. But it is, and it's find a good AA house, find somebody that yes you trust, that you can confide in, that's going to walk step by step with you. As Christ does with all of us.
Right.
Once we learn to accept that, we are not alone in this. All the cliches and the simple sayings are so true if we just adhere to them on a daily basis. And it's out of the darkest of every bad things happen, so worse things don't, is what I'd like to
Right.
say.
Right.
So that's progression.
So you went back out, and did you get married again? I haven't never connected those dots in my head, or not.
I was with a so 4 years ago, um, when I left Sheila and I came out here because of the household and stuff. Um, I wish I could go back and tell that guy from 4 years ago. I saw it was a Bible doctrine book, and I had wanted to read this. It was the Book of Enoch, to be honest with you. But my motives and my mind were still. I wanted to meet a girl and go have fun and all that other good stuff, and I did. Happened. Got involved with that, and I had spirituality sitting right there staring at me in the face. If I would have just taken the time to do what I did this time, it's always that. If I would have done what I, but it's the
Right.
recognition of that though too. Now that I can appreciate
Yeah,
that.
and
I
it's
was
the
involved
it's
with.
it's yeah, it's the if onlys that hold us back too, right? If only I had done this, or if only I hadn't done that. It's the if onlys that are crippling too.
However, though, the mind, more importantly, the heart that I have now that I can think and use my mind, I would not trade that at all. Um, March 13th of last year, 2021, very devastating, tragic day. I had a girlfriend just like that. I reached for a bottle, and I did not reach for God, and I made that bad situation worse.
Yeah.
But in that, a lot of tears, Mandy, a lot of tears through this growth in this past year. Has just been something I can't describe. People in the last year are just like, I cannot believe this is the same guy from a year ago.
Right.
Our good friend Ron, who I've talked to many, many times, is like, Lance, I sense excitement in your voice,
Yeah.
your tone in your voice. You're different, and I'm not trying to do anything. You can only
Yeah.
masquerade for so. I'm blessed
Yeah.
beyond anything that I could imagine, man.
Yeah. You're breaking up a little bit, but maybe you can lean in a little bit. But so let's take a 2 minute break here because I want to remind listeners that I do have another lifestyle champion cohort, which is an 8 week program starting the first part of May. And if for those of you who've listened before, you know we use Zoom technology to do the 90-minute weekly meetings, and the first 30 minutes of those 90 minutes is teaching. And there's actually 3 phases to the lifestyle champion cohort. That is, number one is evaluate. So where are we today? Where are you today? And there's a group of no more than 12 other people that are part of this program. So it's evaluate. Number two is equip. What are the tools? What are the skills that need to be learned in order for you to really thrive and succeed? And then the third phase is enjoy. How do you, now that you're clean and sober and now that you've made the life-changing decision, how do you really enjoy this new you and this new life? So if you are interested and want more information, go ahead and just text champion to 66866. That's champion to 66866. The first thing that we do want you to do is go to randymortensen.com and download the 21-point assessment to determine whether you're a mild, moderate, or severe case of substance use disorder. And I will tell you, you're the first guest to hear this. I'm actually doing a 60% discount on this program that's going to start the first part of May. So just let us know that you heard this on the podcast. And I now want to really turn to something that Lance is doing that I'm just so eager to share with you. It's a nonprofit called Just Imagine that God has laid it on Lance's heart to do what, Lance? What's the goal with Just Imagine?
So it's a compilation of all kinds of things, and it started with Just Cause. And before my consulting days, I use it as a facade, just kind of being a smart rear end guy. And but it struck me this last year in sobriety, Just Cause, and understanding the metaphysical meaning of it. And from that, so it was Just Cause communities and this, that, the other. But it was an LLC, and so Just Imagine, it became more than just a cause. Just imagine communities, just imagine togetherness, what we can do together to inspire hope in people and bring those that dreaded hopeless state, but then also embarking upon the social service network and stuff too. And so the gap analysis and stuff that I used to do for corporations, why can't I apply that same easygoing glance and transition that into, are we getting full value of this from a government, social service, community standpoint? Is there something that's being overlooked? Is there something that's not being resourceful enough that these people, are we communicating what we have to offer to the people that need these? And it's shelter, it's support, it's counseling, it's employment. You know, that's the first thing that everybody seeks when they're in that. I need a job. I need a purpose. I need a purpose. And you know, that's one thing that I got down and I'm like, God, I'm lost. What do you have me here for? What is my purpose? Because it's turning out to be more than what I first said. But so that's Just Imagine, and the nonprofit that comes with it. And it's tugging at the heartstrings of some of our colleagues that we're closely knit to and tied to. And it's all by the grace of God. You know, I did wonders in the corporate world, but I'm not a marketer. And to see the transition and all these steps just coming into place like this, it's just a filing cabinet. I'm like, I see what you did here. See what you did here. Hey, you gave me this person. Hey, you gave me this person. Just scribble down a few more notes, and Just Imagine is just taken off. And it's just imagine what any community, anybody can do with a little bit of hope.
So your initial focus though is more in the Lincoln, Nebraska, Omaha, Nebraska area. That's what you're sensing where the opportunity is, or the needs are probably the greatest. Is that a fair way to say it?
Fairway, yeah, I think the Lincoln. So it first started out with the parks. You know, the idea, you know, just getting families together and stuff, and it's just more of the opportunity to be able to branch out and stuff. I mean, the rural areas most certainly are a deep part of my heart as well too. But it's so one of the notes that I took down was unbiased, unlabeled for the underserved. However, to create the image that I want Just Imagine to have is it's find me a zoo, find the local vendors. And I want to go to the hospitals. I want to find people that struggle with disabilities, find veterans, get those families together, take them to the zoo for a day and feed them boatloads of ice cream. Smiles, it's smiles and bringing unity together in a charitable, heartful way. And it's, it's creating platforms. I don't want to be the guy. I don't want to be the face of this. I want this is for you. And that was the essence of a lot of things too. All of these ideas and stuff. Once I started focusing on other people, not myself, Randy, we spoke about this. The doors, it's not doors. When I open up my door every morning, I say, what are we going to do today, God?
Right.
It's the front door every day that I come out, and it's beautiful, wonderful people that I interact with. And I get to
Right.
work with you guys. And
Right.
I get God bumps. I've never had goosebumps like this before, Randy. I'm ecstatic. I'm beyond words.
Well, and so okay, let's diverge. Well, one last thing, and then I'm going to ask you another question. So if somebody's feeling that nudge right now, they're saying, "Hey, I love what Lance is doing." What's the easiest way for them to get in touch with you? We'll have it in our show notes.
So I do have an email address. The website is just cause, CAUSE, me.com. I started out as a blog forum. There's not a lot of material out there because the progression and the relationships established and stuff, I need to wait on some of that content to fill, but it's info at justcauseme.com. And then also my regular Gmail, dieken.lance@gmail.com.
Okay, but there is information at justcauseme.com even too, right? I heard you
It's an
say?
informal overview, high level, but
Cool.
it's there.
Okay.
I love
Okay.
those.
And folks, you can also call my office number, which is 321-757-HOPE, 321-757-HOPE, or text champion to 66866. And myself or my executive assistant will absolutely get you connected to Lance and the awesome work that God has him doing now. So, Lance, here's a question for you, and I didn't tell you I was going to ask you this. So, someone in recovery that's saying, you know what? Yes, I want to quit drinking, or yeah, I want to quit doing the cocaine, but I just don't get this God connection in recovery. Tell me how you would respond to that, or share just how God just really spoke into your life as you were looking at a radical change.
Why? I go to the churches and a lot of groups and stuff, and so it's God is how, love is always the why. So writing a book too. So it's sobriety, spirituality, sciences, psyche, mindset, man. And it's we always look up the universe. We're profound by that, and a lot of people, they look at it as a 2D landscape, but there's so much more depth beyond that. And the comparisons and the analogies between the structure of the universe, the atomic structure, the molecular structure in our mind, and how our brains actually function are so similar and stuff. How you can dismiss God and the creation of all of this is by chance is very hard for me to conceive, but it's just talk to him. Just reach out. You have nothing else to, what do you have to lose? What do you have to lose by giving God a chance? And
Right.
it's he'll start touching you in small little doses. He's not Santa Claus. It doesn't get fixed overnight. You're gonna cry a little bit, but it's refreshing. And again, that comes from the patience of going through the trials, and then the appreciation. And you got to give acceptance and glory to someone. It's it's there. You'll feel it. You'll feel it. Get close to somebody that's close to God, and just, you don't have to buy into it all. But it's be aware of what's being said too. You'll be able to pick up signs, colors, phrases, words, and things that have meaning and depth to you. You'll start to feel this. You'll listen and you learn from this. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, those are good words. What I will say in similar responses, I had figured out how to not drink the first 16, 17 years of my sobriety. I'd figured out how to not drink, but I was a dry drunk. Well, what does that mean? It means I was still a jerk. I was still inconsiderate. I was still rude. I was still obnoxious, very opinionated, and and so I'd figured out how to not drink, but there was no recovery for me. It was simply it was, like I said, a dry drunk. But then it was a gentleman in Omaha, Nebraska that said, Randy, he said, that when I called him and I said, Ron, you've got something I don't have. I don't know what that is, but then he and his wife sat with my wife and I for 4 hours and read out of the same Bible I'd owned my entire life but never read. And then 10 days later, we're in the ballroom in Los Angeles at an Amway conference on a Sunday morning. And Cliff Minter said, if there's anything you've heard here this morning that says today's the day you should confess your sins, today's the day you should invite the love of Jesus into your heart and then accept the Holy Spirit, come forward, become a fully devoted follower of Christ. I had never, ever heard those words before. And it was that day when the real healing and restoration happened in my life. I didn't know anything about, other than what AA said about, whoever your higher power is, right? I didn't know how powerful God would be in my healing and restoration and the beautiful wife that I now have had for 32 years, right? That just the way I do business today, you don't know the old Randy. You've only seen the new Randy, even you, Lance. Um, and so that's why I just love how you're bold in your faith and you're in your journey for sure. It's just awesome to hear you
If I
share.
can touch and add on that though too, real quick, is so growing up in the profession and stuff, put on suit and tie. We're enamored by the C-level guys when we're young. So like you said though, there's something about you that I want. And so accepting of Christ and stuff, and I've seen it, guys, with that I work with too through sobriety and stuff and this is the disappointing factor though too, on why the heart, people see in us what we don't see in ourselves. And
Right.
that's that hope and stuff like this. But in recovery and accepting God, so you hear of the law of attraction and stuff. We like to be around positive people. Smiles go tenfold. It's not linear in equations, but it's the more that you embody Christ, you walk with a better sense of the ego is smashed. You're not worried about that. You just walk and live. You're not overthinking and being consciously aware of, ooh, should I do this or talk to this, or more importantly, should I dress like this to impress so and so? You just feel good and you go. And that's receptive, and that's God's touch. And once you can recognize that is a wonderful place to be. I say to many people, I don't have a lot of the material stuff. I don't have any of the material stuff I have anymore, but I have everything. I get this opportunity to sit and share with you and
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
listeners, and what a gift and a blessing it is to finally
Yeah.
understand what I've compiled all these years.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good stuff. So I told you this would go really fast. We need to wrap up here. So I just want to echo what you just said, Lance, because God gave us his words as encouragement and for us to share with others. He promised to love us before we ever loved him. And he delights in seeing you and me and all the others who are followers of him. He delights in seeing us use the gifts, the skills, and the talents that he's provided to fulfill the plan that he has for your life. Not that I have for my life or you have for your life, but the plan that he has for your life. Folks, overdose deaths over the last couple of years have more than tripled. And right now in the United States, we're seeing more than 150 overdose deaths per day. It's costing our economy more than $800 billion annually. I shared my number earlier. If you know somebody who's struggling today, or maybe you're that person battling compulsive and destructive behavior, please don't wait another day to seek help. You can reach out to me at 321-757-HOPE, 321-757-HOPE, or call someone you know or trust. Know and trust. Those who are dying are husbands, wives, sons, and daughters of someone who loves them. Today's the day. I do hope you found this information helpful today. You can look for the replay on the various podcast online outlets, Buzzsprout, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and many, many more. Lance, just in closing, what words of encouragement would you leave with to just encourage that guy who says, I don't know that I can do this today?
You have that question, and you've pondered it for a little bit. You have that desire. Deep inside, we all have that purpose and passion that we seek. Just ask, seek. Matthew 7:7 says it wonderfully. You will be found if you just talk and find a friend in God, and he'll give you a friend that's more than willing to listen. It's
Right
a
on.
wonderful life.
Right on. Right on. Okay, guys and gals, thank you so much for listening. Have a blessed day and be extraordinary today.